What's up, world? I'm Matt Newberg from Hungry, and this is The Feed. Each episode, we'll dive into conversations with the industry insiders who are leveraging technology to shape the way we eat. On today's episode of The Feed, I sat down with Marc Washington, founder and CEO of Supergut, a line of shakes, snack bars, and powders focused on gut health nutrition through prebiotic fiber. In this episode, we'll talk about the misconceptions behind probiotics, the role of the gut in moderating everything from our mood to our metabolism, and the future of clinically validated health and wellness products like Supergut.
Okay, awesome. So I'd love to hear about your background. You spent some time in CPG,
Yep.
And then you founded this company. I'd just love to hear how you came across this problem, kind of the founding story of Supergut.
Yeah. First, I guess from a professional side, I'm, just personally passionate about all things better for you, health, wellness, and a lot of my time has been spent in CPG. So food, beverage, supplements, but also spend some time in fitness and health as well. Again, all things better for you. So I was with the wonderful company for a number of years. So Healthy Food and Beverage. So they own Fiji Water and Palm Wonderful. I was the president of Beachbody, so known for at-home fitness, but we really scaled the business in the world of supplements and a superfood health shake. I also ran a supplement business called Irwin Natural, soft gel supplement. So I've seen kind of all sides of the nutrition game, and it's a big part of what led me to founding Supergut. There was this, I tend to describe it as a head meets heart moment. Like the head was, I've been in the space, I know how to, build successful CPG health and wellness businesses, but also realizing that there's an unmet need out there. And this is kind of where the heart starts to come in as well. And that unmet need is really around function. Like, how can we be not just better for you, right? Like so many other businesses that are out there in the health and supplement space, but how can we potentially be transformative to health? Like really fundamentally impact people's health in a profound way. And this is actually where the heart piece comes in as well, what led me to start this company. And it actually goes back to personal experience. It's actually my sister was a big inspiration for me to start Supergut. So her name is Monica, and she, like so many, struggle with their health throughout her adult life. And so many of these conditions which have become far too prominent, affect far too many people. So she was chronically obese. She struggled with diabetes, struggled with high blood pressure as well. And had all these different health issues that were challenges for her throughout her adult life. And so she tragically passed away. We just celebrated the 8th year anniversary of her passing. And when that happened, it just struck me to my core, the fact that this could happen in this day and age. And also the fact that there should have been better options for someone like Monica to get in better control of their health. And that just lit this fire in me that still burns to this day. And this combination of seeing and believing that there's a way to do this better, more functional, right, through food, and having the personal experience of just how significantly it can impact someone's life, even in a tragic way, kind of led me to start Supergut. And this inspiration of how can we, take food as medicine, right, and be transformative, both for those who are like seriously struggling, but also in a more preventative way as well, right? So that's where you can have the biggest impact, like helping people, empowering people with more control so that they stay on top of their health and avoid kind of this path where too many of us are on towards, chronic diseases. So that's the backstory for how and why I decided to start Supergut.
Amazing story. Yeah, and that inspired the original name, which was
Unique.
Unique.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I made it up, right? I mean, so we were thinking, what do we call this thing? And I was literally thinking of my direct inspiration, Monica. And so made up the name. It was Monica plus Unique equals Unique during I call it our first proof of concept phase when we launched the company.
So talk to us about what's actually inside the product, what's inside the powder, your product line, kind of just like the basic pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the highest level, we are all about gut health nutrition. I think you're quite familiar with just now how important gut health is, like not just for digestion, but for total health, right? I think we know a lot more about that now. I think we're going to continue to know more about how important gut health is. We focus on the prebiotic side of gut health. So one thing is just the distinction between probiotics, which is trying to add more live bugs to literally the trillions of bugs that are already resident in your stomach, right? Versus the prebiotic side, which is literally just the food, the nutrients that the good bugs in your gut need to thrive and survive and to keep you healthy and to avoid diseases. The issue with us, and Western society, the Western diet, we don't get nearly enough prebiotics in our diet. And so we've essentially starved the good bugs in our gut who need to be, who need these nutrients to to thrive, to grow, proliferate, and to keep us healthy. We starve them, right? And so what we do is we focus on some specific, unique, very powerful forms of prebiotics, and specifically a class called resistant starch, which are naturally available in different starchy plant foods, but typically in the Western diet, we hardly get any of this.
Wow.
Right, so we went out and we found concentrated sources of this resistant starch and these other forms of prebiotics that the evidence have shown work together in a really synergistic way and could have just a profound impact on your health, on your gut, and your digestion, but then also not just stopping there, but literally tapping into your metabolic health, tapping into your mental health and well-being, all these pervasive benefits, we're rebuilding your foundation for health being in your gut. And so we create our own blend of this resistant starches and these other prebiotics, and then we put it into delicious foods, right? Because I'm still just such a believer in food as medicine and that people want to enjoy things that you're putting into your body. And so we formulated into delicious shakes. We also formulated into some delicious snack bars. And now, as you know, we also sell our prebiotic fiber blend as a standalone. If you want the versatility that you can just add to any food, drink, or beverage that you can mix it in.
Amazing. So you can put this into food, into an omelet, I guess. You could put it in coffee, which you said is a popular one. Water, which I did this weekend multiple times before I had a big burrito on Friday and a taco crawl on Sunday. And,
offset some of that damage,
And I also had some Coca-Cola with that, just to really put it to the test. and I'm known to do this, and no sluggishness. I was walking a lot, which definitely helped.
That helps, absolutely.
No,
food coma.
Post meal.
We've seen it. Yeah, no. And so the fiber mix has been really interesting for those like yourself that like the versatility. You want to live your life, but you want some versatility. Maybe you have your own shake, maybe you have your own routine. So it really fits in really well, and it's very, very versatile. The top usage is coffee, right? I mean, most people wake up in the morning and have their coffee. Some aren't as pure coffee aficionados like you and don't mind adding a prebiotic mix into that. But others will just add it to water, their own smoothie, add it to oatmeal, yogurt. Frankly, some even bake with it, can add it in to make, if you think about it, a lot of things that do a lot of damage to your health are very high glycemic, right? You don't want your blood sugar spiking and crashing all over the place. Obviously, carbs do that to you, right? And so how do you make some of these foods that we've grown to know and love, how do you make it more accessible, right? This is actually a pathway in. So you can bake pancakes with this. I love pancakes, right? You can hardly tell that anything's in there, and significantly buffers some of the spike that you would otherwise see.
Well, I saw that video you posted of a little girl making cookies with her mom.
Yeah.
It's this is a very
our little fiber chef that also found ways to get this into your diet in so many different forms of fashion. It actually just goes back to part of the ethos of the company. When we were talking about why I started this thing, it's because it's kind of hard today to maintain this healthy diet, right? I mean, you're bombarded with big food and processed foods and kind of stuff that's been optimized on filling you up cheap, tasty calories, right? And so you've kind of been, molded in this way. And so it's hard to live a consistently healthy diet. And so what we're about is how do we reintroduce some of these nutrients that have essentially been stripped out of our foods, but that are just foundational to our overall health, the way our body functions. And a lot of this obviously goes back to your gut. And that's why things like the fiber mix are just ways to make it easy, accessible, versatile to get these nutrients back into your diet.
Absolutely. And so it's unripened bananas, if I'm not mistaken.
That is one of the sources. No. So we created our own blend. Again, so it's these resistant starch and these other forms of prebiotic fiber that feeds the good bugs in your gut, unripened bananas are one of our primary sources. And it's fascinating. Like, people like, bananas? Really? Heard that bananas spike your blood sugar. And it's actually true, but it's just how Mother Nature evolves. When you get a banana and it's super unripened, super dark green, like greener than you would see, in a grocery store, like literally on the tree, deep dark green. And it's frankly, in my opinion, it's when it's least tasty, right? It's very starchy, it's very dry, it's not delicious. What it is, though, it's very high in prebiotics, right? At that point in time, it's got high in resistant starch. These prebiotics that are difficult for your normal digestive process to actually process and break down, right? But it's actually really effective at feeding the good bugs in your gut. But then what happens over time is a banana ripens and it becomes delicious. And what happens is that starch actually translates into sugar. And that's why bananas are so delicious, but that's also why a lot of times they can spike your blood sugar. So actually the composition of a banana changes quite dramatically over time. So we get it at its very, very green, unripened point. It's obviously processed in specific ways to capture that. And we have it in highly concentrated as one of the forms of prebiotic fibers in our shakes.
If we look globally, are there any cultures that you think have a really high amount of resistant starches in their diet?
No, it's a really good question. One of the most natural dietary approaches that gets you a lot of prebiotics in is actually the Mediterranean diet.
Okay.
When you think of, because it really comes back to some of the basics, right? Plant forward, fruits and veggies, right? And some of them being like starchier type plants as well. So you can also look at communities that have consumed root vegetables, but when they are in more unripened formed. And so a lot of people describe resistant starches like ancestral starches, because we used to eat more tubers and more, starchy plant foods were more of a staple of the diet. And we used to get higher concentrations of resistant starch and other prebiotics in your diet. But in today's diet, like literally a Mediterranean diet is one of the most consistently found, overall healthy, but in particular because in a Mediterranean diet, you're typically getting a lot of prebiotics and fiber in your diet. And so that tends to be one of the areas that naturally you can get a lot of this into your diet. What we do is it's hard for most of us to follow that on a consistent basis, day in, day out, right? And so that's how we're trying to find ways to help you supplement what you get through your normal diet.
It's interesting. It's like the modern pressures of society and convenience have taken us so far away from our ancestral.
So true. It's so true. And listen, and for good reasons in some part, right? I mean, because we found ways through, industrialized food processing to make food plentiful, right? To make calories plentiful, right? And so we've reduced, starvation, right? And access to calories. But what has happened, right, while optimizing for these cheap calories, we've not optimized for nutrition, for nutrients, right? And so literally we have stripped out a lot of the goodness, right, in a lot of the food sources that, that we consume in this day and age. And so, in many ways, can we go back, right, to the way that, our ancestors used to eat and get some of those nutrients back into our diet. And so that's, again, what we're trying to make it easier to do so.
Love it. Okay, I want to go into the science.
Yeah.
This is what we're all about here. We're about the science.
Yeah.
So probiotics, prebiotics. Talk to us about, there's a lot of companies out there that are selling people probiotics, and some are doing custom probiotics, which is very niche, but for people with SIBO, people with IBS, or just people like myself who just want to just maintain better wellness, have more energy. How do these, talk to us about the current state of the market of probiotics and the unique aspect of our guts and why it's so hard, I guess, if you were to even make a probiotic product.
No, absolutely. So I'm going to keep it real. And I love talking about the science. I mean, I think we've already established, right, that probiotics, and which is what most people go to when they think of gut health and trying to do something to supplement or augment their gut health. Most people think of a probiotic. We've already established that that's intended to be adding more live microbes to your gut. The challenge is, and again, I'm gonna keep it real here, the vast majority of the commercially available probiotics that you might find on store shelves or what have you have very, very limited clinical evidence around just how functional that they might be in your health and in your overall wellness. Now, that being said, like there are definitely specific strains out there that do have some compelling evidence when used in specific application for specific individuals, et cetera. But when you think in mass, right, and the probiotics that you're likely going to finding that exact strain that's right for you and your situation that's going to be impactful in your health, it's not easy, right? And also when you think about the fact that this is, however many strains, however many, CFUs, right? That's the amount of probiotics that you might take in a dosage. When you think about the journey of a probiotic to actually be effective, it's quite difficult, right? I mean, so it's got to be the right strain, it's got to be the right amount.
Right.
For it to be effective, it's got to survive digestion as well. It's got to be alive, first of all, and it's got to survive digestion. And, the human body was meant to break down foods that you're ingesting, right? And so it's a very corrosive environment that you consume foods and you swallow and it goes through your stomach and digestive enzymes hit it. Like many of them break down, right? And before they ever get to your gut, like before they pass your stomach, pass your small intestine to resonate, to get to your large intestine, one, to even get there alive, and then secondly, to be resonant, right? Versus to just go in passing and then be excreted out immediately. So that's a lot to go through for just a probiotic to actually get to where it can be beneficial to you in your body and in your health. So that's challenging. Prebiotics, right, on the other hand, by definition, for something to be a prebiotic, it means it bypasses your digestion. And a prebiotic effect, by definition, means it is feeding the good microbes in your gut, right? The thing is, you've got trillions of bugs in your gut, right? Some that are good and beneficial, some that are bad, right, that you don't want. The prebiotics are feeding the good bugs in your gut. Not every prebiotic is created equal. Some are more effective at feeding specific good bugs than others. Some are easier to tolerate, right, in your digestive system as well. But all prebiotics and most prebiotics, most fibers have a lot of prebiotic effect in it. They're all good for you. It's just different levels of good, and exactly how they're gonna, what they're gonna do for your health is what varies from one to another.
It's a brutal funnel, it sounds like, if you're going to put it in marketing terms.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's a really good way to think about it.
Just to get it.
It's a really good way to think
And someone did a study where it's like the majority of the stuff on the shelves is already dead by the time you buy it, right?
It's true.
And then you look at the capsules that they put them in, right? They're not designed to even make it past the gastric system, like you said.
Right.
And then did you even buy the right one? And it's just like paradox of choice. Bad delivery mechanism. Not like a good enough cold chain supply to, maintaining that. It's really hard. It's really hard. And then even, and so like I ask, do you know if it's working for you? Like whatever probiotic that you're taking, like is there anything you can feel or measure, and or is there any clinical evidence, like has the specific brand done clinical studies, like on that probiotic delivered in that form that has shown like what that's going to lead to? I guarantee the vast majority of the time the answer is no. Yeah, I mean, I think for people like myself who are looking at it from a more preventative standpoint, doing a real double-blind study is next to impossible. Right? There's so many factors. For just looking at overall wellness. It's really hard. It's also, it's expensive as well. Right? And so those are reasons why most food supplements don't do clinical studies. But I think a large part, not just because it's expensive, I think because many would not like what they saw on the other end, because it's really hard, right? Because it's complicated, this human body and this system to really have a fundamental effect on health, and to do it in a double-blind, placebo-controlled way. It's a high bar. It's a really high bar. So yeah, you don't see a lot of that done out there. Absolutely.
By others.
So one of the things that really drew me to Supergut was obviously like the clinical studies that you guys have done. And I've personally done some of these experiments on myself a few years ago where, before Levels even, a guy named Richard Sprague, who I had on my podcast in the early days, like told me, buy a CGM. You'll be fascinated by it. Huh. You just threw me off into the deep end to figure this out on my own. So I was like logging my food, doing all this. It was not intuitive. You know, I had to go and figure out some Canadian prescription for a CGM. Like there was no easy path to follow. Right? And I had a lot of fun. It was like doing all these things, like exercising and then having this like carby meal, or having some apple cider vinegar before a pizza, or putting mushrooms on a pizza, changing the order in which I consume salad before a pizza. Right. It was all pizza
You learn
studies.
so much, right? You learn so much about yourself, about your body.
Yeah.
And do understand your blood sugar response.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear about like, okay, what is the gut's role in regulating our blood sugar? And then how have you guys looked at this from, like testing the efficacy of prebiotic fiber?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one, even outside of Supergut, it's back to this role of the gut, right? And this broad role that the gut can play. And that's what we know now. It's not just about digestion, right? I mean, the health of your gut microbiome, these trillions of microorganisms, they have a very direct tie and connection to most physical and even mental systems in your body, and playing a very regulatory role in all of it. And so that includes things that affect your metabolism. So blood sugar and insulin response, right? Those are directly connected to the health of your gut. Your cardiovascular health, so things like blood pressure and cholesterol, those have a direct tie and connection. Even your weight, right? And your appetite. Those hormones that affect your appetite and how you carry weight are also connected to your gut microbiome, right? And so all of these factors, it's really amazing thing, the profound impact of the gut on overall health, metabolism, and mental health as well.
The gut-brain axis.
Oh, the gut-brain axis is huge, right? And this is an area that's where I'd say the science is really emerging, right? There's a lot of great evidence currently, but I think a lot of it is still to come to validate not just the connections between the gut and the brain, but how to modulate, what to do about it. Like what products, what can you take, what can you do lifestyle-wise that can directly impact your gut and have a positive impact on your brain. But we'll circle back to this. So, right, and so you asked what we've done. And so the biggest thing that we've done to prove that Supergut can have this significant, profound impact on your health is we've done that gold standard clinical trial. Like it was just part of the ethos of this company, this science-forward company is really wanting to bring data to show that this really can be profound, right? And so we did a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled clinical study. And for the study, we did use Supergut shakes. We also created a placebo shake, which had the same amount of protein, same amount of calories, but it just was missing our resistant starch prebiotic fiber blend, right? And we had close to 200 participants. It was co-conducted with Stanford. We saw one of the main things, because we knew based on the research that blood sugar control is really key for overall health. And so one of the main outpoints that we were looking at was how effectively a consistent habit with Supergut shakes could help you in manage your blood sugar control. And even, for people that had elevated blood sugar, like those live with diabetes, could even lower your average blood sugar over time. That measurement's called your HbA1c, right? And so, long story short, we had a positive study, and we showed that we can significantly improve your body's management of blood sugar control naturally, right? And literally, the level of reduction of average blood sugar levels was on par with one of the leading diabetes drugs, right, called metformin. It's a drug that a lot of people go to. It's one of the first line of defense in oral medication when your doctors might diagnose you as being diabetic.
Yeah.
The result we saw with Supergut shake was comparable to that. And this is from drinking a delicious shake, right, that happens to work through your gut microbiome.
Yeah.
In addition, though, like we didn't just want to look at blood sugar, we want to look at the broad impacts of Supergut, like on overall health. And so obviously we looked at digestive health, right? And, it's not surprising that those who were on a consistent habit with Supergut significantly improved their digestive health. So they were more regular, they were less constipated, less bloating, less nausea as well, which is connected to your digestive health. But in addition, we also wanted to look at these broader quality of life and wellness measures, right? Things that are actually connected to this gut-brain axis. And just about everything that we looked at moved in a positive direction. So people reported better energy, better mood, better sleep quality, less brain fog, right? Are some of the key areas that stood out for those that were consistently consuming Supergut shakes. And so we saw all of this in this, again, this gold standard randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study that we've actually now published, right? It's been peer-reviewed and published in a leading medical journal called Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism. It's actually one of the first CPG products that they've ever published research on, just because it was that profound.
Amazing. I can only hope that, everything that we buy in the future has this kind of research behind.
Standard. That's what we're hoping to help make the standard going forward is, is just raising the bar and bringing some data to actually prove, not just to make a marketing claim, but to actually prove that this is doing something for you and delivering on that promise.
Yeah.
We've also done some additional research, right? Beyond the big clinical study, we've done some smaller pilot studies. So things like what you've done to yourself, like measuring a continuous glucose monitor.
Yeah.
We had what I call small pilot studies. So in of like 5 or 6 people doing the exact same thing to just measure specifically on blood sugar response, right, to consuming our bars, as well as to consuming our prebiotic fiber mix. So for our bars, we looked at what is your blood sugar response after you have our bar compared to essentially any other bar out there on the market, right? And the unfortunate truth is that for most bars, you might as well have a candy bar because they're delicious, right? But your blood sugar is most of them a ton of sugar in them, and your blood sugar spikes and crashes thereafter. Whereas with the Supergut bars, no sugar added, and the prebiotic fiber keeps your blood sugar levels unbelievable, nice and steady.
How long? So after I ate this, how long am I good for? After I take this.
So what we looked at was a 2-hour window. Okay. And so for the study that we did specifically with our prebiotic fiber mix, we actually had healthy individuals wearing continuous glucose monitors consume high glycemic foods for breakfast, right? First thing in the morning where it's clear, you have an empty slate, and we looked at blood sugar response for the 2 hours kind of after you consume, which is typically the window when you're looking at blood sugar response. Then the next week, we had the same group of individuals consume the exact same breakfast, but with our prebiotic fiber mix added. So whether they had Rice Krispies, for cereal, or they had a bagel with, jam and juice or what have you, just with the Supergut added. And we then looked at their blood sugar levels, again, over a 2-hour time period. And on average, we saw about a 25% lower area under the curve in terms of your blood sugar response when adding the Supergut prebiotic fiber mix. So within that sort of 2-hour window is where we saw that, quite significant effect.
And there were some studies that showed it was up to even 40%, right?
Oh yeah, no, depending on what it kind of depends on how significant a food item is going to impact you. It actually has a greater impact, right, of the Supergut fiber mix. So yeah, some of them were upwards of 40% lower blood sugar spike with Supergut added.
This is not an endorsement to go crazy and on pasta.
It is not an endorsement, but here it is though. The reality is the vast majority of consumers want to live your life, right? I mean, and if there's a way that you can have some foods that you love, make them more accessible, I think that is a way for actual impact, right? The vast majority of us are not going to stick to some unbelievably rigid routine and stick to it 24/7 every day of the week. Like that's why diets fail, right? Because they can't last. We're like, let's figure out a way. Yes, we want you to stay on top of your health game, but even when you want to go off, how can we make it a little bit more accessible so that you're not going to completely wreck all the good work that you've been putting in along the way? So I think that's an important aspect of this, to make these foods more accessible.
No, it's very timely as podcasts like Huberman Lab are really gaining mainstream attention. And there's this oh crap, I need to just literally do 180 on everything.
Yes, I need to be doing my ice cold bath plunge. I need to be sitting in darkness for 30 minutes a day. I need to only eat during these hours. I need to only, and come on.
It's not realistic. Now. I mean, you can hear it all you want. People can tell it to you, but are you going to actually do it?
Exactly.
You're going to be militant to that degree.
And here's the answer. 99.9% of us, the answer is no.
No.
Right? And that's where I'm trying to live in this world of impact, right? How can we, for the largest portion of people, make it easier? Because I do think that there's a significant portion of the population, there's this latent demand of people who do want to look better, want to feel better, want to feel more confident, right? But it's really hard, right? Unless you go this militaristic pathway. And so how do we close that gap and make it actually more accessible, more easier to move in that direction? And I think it's through habits that you can sustain, that you can enjoy, and make a part of your consistent routine as opposed to some crazy regime.
No, and I've been doing, this also when it comes to alcohol. We had another company on the podcast called Prebiotics. So it's been this interesting probiotic that you take before you drink. And it basically has, they created this enzyme that's producing a high amount of this one bacteria that is made from the Japanese soybean, fermented Japanese soybeans, not from natto, and if it's supposed to basically reduce the negative effects of hangovers. You're still going to have impacted sleep quality, but you're just not going to feel like all this acetaldehyde is just this like chemical thing that wreaks havoc on your body. You're not going to be as
the next day. Interesting.
So these products, obviously probiotic, prebiotic, they're very different, but interesting from like a consumer behavior standpoint when we're saying you can live your life. We have to accept that you're gonna, the modern person is just gonna, try to figure out how to reduce some of the negative effects of their, of our culture.
That's right.
And then, plan in advance.
No, that's right. That's right. Like it's actually one of the things that I'm really big into is habit. Right. And because at the end of the day, the aspiration is impact. Like how do we help as many people as possible lead healthier lives and more control? And as we know, as we talked about, there's no such thing as a magic pill.
Right.
And also in order to get that kind of result, it has to be something that you can sustain, right? Because the vast majority of people can't and won't go some unbelievably restrictive type path and last over time. And so what do you have? You've got something that has to work for you in your life on a consistent basis, as close to daily as possible. And that's a habit, right? And so that's why we talk about like, how do we make these products, accessible, convenient, dare I say enjoyable, right? Craveable. And I think that's a key part of creating a habit. Or how do we make them so versatile that it's something you're going to be, sticking to on a consistent basis? Because we know the science has shown, like, if we can get someone to consistently incorporate more of these prebiotics, like what we have in Supergut, into their diet on a consistent basis, we know that they're going to be healthier, they're going to feel better, and they're going to get results.
Yep. Totally. Very important. I'd love to circle back to what we were talking about the responsibility of the gut to regulate all these different things, impact on our longevity. But this idea of the gut as a second brain and all these axes that it intersects with, right? Skin, our mood. I mean, like I said, it goes back to the brain. So by taking, obviously we can point to like the hard science on the CGM data, but what are some of the more qualitative or, second order effects of having a healthy gut that is, further perpetuated by a product like Supergut?
No, absolutely. Like on the one hand, it's almost hard to believe, like until you really dive into the science, just how pervasive like the gut microbiome is in so many different dimensions of health. But when you look into the science, it's really compelling, right? When you see all these different connections between kind of the gut and digestion, of course, between the gut and metabolism, between the gut and your skin, between the gut and your mental clarity. But it is really there. It's really pervasive, and we're going to continue to learn more and more, right, as the years come. So that's where I start, is right, really with the science and with the foundation and data. But there's also like the clinical studies showing specific impact, again, like Superguts, on specific areas of your health. But then there's also a lot of what you get is the leading indicators from what the feelability of when engaging with folks that are consuming a product like ours over time, and understand what it is that they're seeing in their lives that shows up, that feels good, like whether it's more energy, which is one of the first things that we hear reported, but we also hear sleep. Sleep quality is significantly impacted by what's happening in your gut. And I think we all know like how important sleep is for your overall productivity. It's so foundational to your health, right? And so that actually goes back to the gut brain connection as well. Things like brain fog and mental clarity and acuity are also impacted by your gut microbiome. And a lot of this it has to do with the interplay between the physical and the mental as well. Like, because when you think about, I know there are time periods in my life where I've had the most stressful things happening, like personally, professional, what happened. That's also the periods where my body was like physically breaking down, right? And if you need any other proof of this connection between the mind and the body, like there you have it. Like in real life, it's where like digestive issues and other things that were happening physically happening during periods of like some of the most, like mentally challenging as well. There's so many signs and indicators out there just showing the different forms of connection between the two. I'll say a couple other stats that can make this feel a bit more real, right? Because again, it can be hard to believe. So one is when you think about inflammation, right? And immunity, they're actually connected. Like, the way that your body responds to issues or challenges is in large part based on your immune system, but a lot of times that affects inflammation as well. The fact is that in your gut, about 80% of your immune cells reside in your gut. Right. And so that kind of can give you an indicator of just what a pervasive role that the gut has on immunity and inflammation. Right. And that, inflammation is also a root cause of so many issues that people deal with physically in their lives. Another key factor to note is, this concept of the gut being the second brain. The significant portion of the chemicals, the signaling chemicals in your brain, so like serotonin, largely are produced in your gut as well, right? I mean, so like when you get to know some of these factors, then it goes to reason, okay, there really is this big significant connection between the gut and the brain, and therefore I can understand how my mood can be impacted by what's going on in my gut. Or vice versa, right? If I have things that are bad that are happening in my gut, it can affect my mental clarity as well. So it actually goes in both directions.
Wow. Yeah, the two-way street is.
Yeah.
I mean, looking towards the future, could we presumably be creating products, like you have today, that target those specific, that targets those probiotics that would create more serotonin, right? So we'd have like a Supergut cookie that makes us happy.
Yeah, no, honestly, like I absolutely believe that is possible. I will say that one of the things I feel very strongly about, and as part of our ethos, is making sure that whenever we produce a product and whenever we do say this is what this product is going to do for you, that we can deliver on that promise, right? And that we actually can substantiate that in some form, whether it's through pilot studies or it's existing evidence, or ideally a gold standard study. So that's kind of a pretty high bar for us to then go out with that. But I absolutely believe that is where things are headed, and that we could be a part of that. I will say some of the science is still emerging. Right. And so you hear a lot about correlation versus causation. Right. And so you have a lot of that, especially in this world of the gut brain, connection. There's a significant amount of correlation that has been proven and shown, like specific bugs tend to be predominant in people that have kind of healthier lifestyles, better mood, and then vice versa. Some other bugs have been dominant when people have really chronic, like mental health issues and, autoimmune diseases, et cetera. Then the question is then how do you take it to the next level to like causation, right? And what can you actually do to modulate? And by doing that, can you drive that sort of outcome? That's where it's, I'd say, still emerging. Right. And so I say those who are saying, take this pill, this is the happy mood pill, this works through your gut. Lots of questions. Do not believe it. Right. The science is not there yet. But I think it is going there. I literally think over the 5 to 10 years, we're still in the early innings of truly understanding the gut microbiome and how to modulate your gut to drive these different outcomes. We know now about how to do that in a form of digestion. We know now also how to do that in the way of metabolism. I think what we are learning is how to do that in the ways of mental health as well, but it's coming.
Very well said, and that makes me very optimistic.
It's coming.
I feel like we have the first and foremost from my perspective is a measurement problem.
Right.
Figuring out, what's resident, the trillion, all the species that are inside. We only have you and I probably share 10% of the gene.
Right.
We share 99% of the same DNA.
Yeah.
We can sequence DNA very, very easily. That followed the Moore's law cost curve.
Yep.
Same thing is happening kind of on the gut side, but the measurement practice of sending a stool sample in the mail. And, that's tough.
Yeah.
And then we got to figure out what to do about it.
That's another tough thing.
Precision medicine, the precision probiotic, prebiotic, whatever the cocktail is.
Yeah.
And then, we got to figure out how to measure that impact.
And then what to do about that when you have that measurement as well. Yeah. No, it's tough. I think it's coming. I do. I do predict, again, in this 5 to 10 years from now, I think we're going to advance in the diagnostics and the measurements of a healthy gut. And I think it's going to become more common amongst consumers, right? And so when you go to your doctor, you're not just going to take a blood test. You're going to take a poop test or some form of it, and they're going to be able to provide you some indicators, some diagnosis of what's going on in your life and what you should do based on this full reading, gut, blood, brain, et cetera. I think it's heading in that direction. I don't think we're there yet. I'd say in the meantime, we really focus on what we know 95% of us need a whole lot more of right in our time, right? It's kind of this common truth. Like before we get to the point of full precision kind of, diagnostics and supplementation or what have you, we know that 95% of us need more prebiotic fiber in our diet. And so we're gonna focus on that for now to just level set, bring the base up for everybody. And then I think we can play in the 5 to 10% optimization by individual when we get to that point.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. So I think this would be a great transition to talk about like the current state of products out there.
Sure.
We have everything from like these one-size-fits-all probiotics, like a seed health. And people ask me all the time, what should I be taking? I know you did a lot of gut tests on yourself, and I can't even say what's worked for me because it's impossible to really know a lot of these like moving targets and the qualitative side of these things and versus the quant. And then you have things like Athletic Greens, right, which are doing a blend of pre and probiotic.
Mostly other stuff, though.
Mostly like supplements.
Mostly supplements, vitamins and minerals, superfoods, herbs, botanicals, etc. With a sprinkle of probiotics and prebiotics.
Yeah, we got, maybe one of your former companies with Fiji Water, one of the founders of that is doing a new drink that I covered called Good Idea. And it's essentially this... amino acid profile that they discovered actually from some protein in milk or something that essentially is able to reduce your blood sugar. And it's taken in the same way that I would take one of these mixes, or I would take apple cider vinegar before a meal that would spike my blood sugar. So we have all these products out there. They've done the studies, the OLE and PG guys that are working on the Good Idea, but a lot of these other companies, they're just kind of going off of sexy marketing. Should I say?
Yes, fads and trends, and unfortunately, some pseudoscience out there.
Yeah, and it's really hard today when we have all these influencers that we really trust, right? Who are so data driven, who are like, no, if there's anything I can recommend, it's AG1. And you're like, damn, what did they have to do to get them to say that? That's a big one.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It's I have some thoughts as you can imagine. Listen, I love this space, right, of health and wellness and all things better for you, and I think that it is in large part doing a positive service. Majority of these better for you brands are doing a service, right, to consumers, and that they're better for you relative to other things that you might be taking in your diet and your food, what have you. Now, that being said, there's some that are absolute bad actors that are literally dangerous. And so those exist as well. I'd say most people are outside of the dangerous zone. I'd say are into the broader, better for you zone, right? I think we can do more though. Right. And I think this is broadly speaking, as opposed to speaking about any specific brand, than the vast majority of products in health and wellness that haven't done the research, right? That haven't actually looked at how this affects your health and measured it in a way. I'd say that where you get into the very few minority that go above the generic claim and the better for you a wellness category into the actual validated zone, right? This does this for you, and we've shown it in this environment, right? That is a very, very select group, and that's where I think we need to be moving towards.
Right.
And I think, frankly, I believe more and more consumers are becoming more discerning, right? And especially as you start to see the advent of diagnostics and of measurements. And so it's no longer just a belief system. It's no longer just responding to an influencer saying something, but people are wanting to feel something, right? I want to be able to measure something. And I think this is going to continue. And I think it's a very, very good thing. And I think that's going to raise the bar on brands, right? To be able to offer a product, to make a claim, and not just have you try it, but to have you continue to come back to it again, are going to have to deliver on the promise. They're going to have to make sure that their product actually works. And the way to do that is through data, right? And so I don't think many of those brands that you mentioned out there, frankly, the vast majority of the probiotics, the shakes, these supplements, really have gone to that level of validating just how effective that these products are. But I think things are going to move in that direction. Obviously, we're going to try to be a trailblazer to pull things in that direction, but I think that's the way that the consumer is going to be pulling brands to actually show that their products deliver on a promise, and it's not just a claim.
Yeah, I certainly hope that consumers demand more from these companies, but it's so hard to, I don't know. I think my audience, the people watching this are going to be the more vigilant consumers and people who are other founders like yourself in this space. But then there's a whole, the 99% of people out there that they're driven by the influencers, and they're not looking at peer-reviewed research. They've never strapped on a CGM.
Right.
They know how they feel, but there's a lot of placebo effect.
A huge amount of placebo effect. A huge amount of belief system. Well, such and such said that this worked for them, and they are healthy, so this must be working for me, even though I can't measure it, I can't feel it, I can't what have you. It's absolutely true. I think over time, though, like the more health optimizer, the more, people that are into diagnostics, even biohacking, I feel like that creates a movement, right? And does create some momentum and something that can eventually kind of filter down to more of the masses over time. So when, we were talking about before, so today it's pretty limited, those folks who have access to something like a CGM, right? It's either those who are chronically suffering from a disease that they're designed for, like diabetes, or those who are very progressive and have access to, the levels or what have you, and are doing it more preventatively. What happens when Apple, right, makes it ubiquitous, right? An Apple Watch to just have CGMs. That's one of the things that lowers the bar, right? And makes it easier for many of those throughout the country to have more visibility of what's going on in their body. And blood sugar response is really important. It's not just about diabetes control. It's about metabolism. It's about mental health, et cetera. If I'm seeing all of a sudden this is spiking my blood sugar and this told me that this is going to keep me stable, I've got data now, right? And I'm going to make a different decision. So I think this is just part of what's going to build the momentum in this area towards actual efficacy and the truth. And so we are here for that. We can't wait. We're going to try to pull it to the best of our ability, but we're hopeful that, consumers trying it, speaking about the results, as well as technology, health tech, et cetera, kind of helping pull consumers in this direction.
It's interesting. So you talk about lowering the bar for consumers to have that information and data and empowerment, and raising simultaneously, that raises the bar for the whole host of CPG companies to actually be like, oh, you caught us.
Exactly. To deliver on the promise. To deliver on the promise, right, is exactly the aspiration of, I think it's just a, pun intended, a much healthier place, right, for us to be, is consumers are looking for it, can measure it, and brands are offering it, right, as a result. I think those are the kind of things where impact happens, right? I mean, so when we talk, at the outset, some of my motivations and aspirations is like, how can we empower people with better control of their health when you look at things like diabetes and obesity and hypertension? The numbers are through the roof and growing every year, right? Despite, all the growth in probiotics and all the growth in, greens, powders and technology or what have you, right? We're sicker than ever. I think that what we're talking about is a way to actually bend the curve on some of those health outcomes, not just for those who are, significantly struggling, but for those who are taking a more preventative approach and can avoid going down that path in the first place. And I think having access to products that work, having access to diagnostics to be able to measure it, I think are all elements are going to help us, prevent kind of the next wave of major chronic diseases in the future.
As we kind of come out towards the end of this combo, I would love to hear, like, what do you think that might look like in the future? Like, paint us a picture of, your ideal world of what the consumer of 2030 or whatever is doing when it comes to, smart toilets or non-invasive CGMs, and what is like the role of large CPG companies, because this is a big attack on them, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I've shared a little bit of it, and I'm definitely not the futurist, but I can give you some indicators of where I think things are headed. I think from a consumer standpoint, I think as we've talked about, I think the increasing discernment around products that actually work, I think is going to continue to increase. I think the ubiquitousness of health tech and diagnostics, I think, is going to continue as well. So you're going to have various ways as a consumer to measure your health and wellness, but I also think that's going to carry over into the healthcare system as well, right? I mean, so I think it's no longer just going to be you go to your doctor when you're sick and you take a blood test or what, and you could take a pill, but I think there's going to be a more preventative angle, right? You're speaking with your physician about wellness, right? Not just sickness. And a big part of that is going to be diagnostics. And that's not going to, it's just going to be blood and blood pressure and so forth. It's going to be gut microbiome, right? And its role and its health, and some diagnostics that indicate the health of your gut, in addition to some of these metabolic outcomes as well, I think is a big part of it, a big part of what that future holds. And then from the brand side, I think it is going to be around brands to deliver on that promise, right? And take a higher bar when making claims and producing products that are actually functional and better for you, and deliver on that promise. And so I do think there's going to continue to be some form of validation, more data, some clinical studies, and some things that don't go all the way to the extent of clinical studies, but that actually are delivering, right? I think that's going to become the consumer expectation, right? That brands, and I think it's going to start from emerging brands like ours. And I think, where real impact happens is when this infuses into the big CPG brands, which essentially control our food systems and big food today. I think it's when it hits to them, that's where we know it's really arrived.
When General Mills makes a cereal that has Supergut,
there you go,
inside the frosted
there
flakes.
you go. You said it, not me, but that's when it's hit the big time. That's where impact happens, though, right?
Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you hear, please hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. And if you're curious to get a first-hand look at the cutting edge of food and tech, check out hungry.tv. That's Hungry with no U, where you can join in on live conversations like these or sign up for the free weekly newsletter.